This is a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station.
8:49 a.m. You're listening to The Morning Run with Shazana Shawning and Keith. Let's talk about water issues plaguing the Klang Valley. According to government data, Malaysia loses about 40% of its treated water to non-revenue water, or NRW, with a target to reduce it further to 31% by the end of this year.
NRW incurs high costs for both federal and state governments, with Perlis recording over 60% and Kelantan about 50%, while Selangor's NRW rate is ahead of Putrajaya's goal at 27%. Gaps in the water infrastructure still exist and need improvement to ensure optimal efficiency.
In addition, supply disruptions and wastage remain recurring issues in our country, especially as Malaysia becomes a hotspot for data centre investments. That said, what roles do water agencies like ICE Selangor play in ensuring the sustainability of this precious resource?
Well, for some thoughts on this, we speak with the CEO of ICE Selangor himself, Saffian Ghazali. Adam, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us today. So, the level of non-revenue water in Selangor presently stands at 27%. What does this indicate about the state of water assets in Selangor?
27% is actually, if you ask me, is actually a good number as compared to other water operators in the country. Nevertheless, we know that there are things that we need to do to improve it further. For example, of course, non-revenue water is associated with pipes. We produce the water at our water treatment plants, and the water is being pumped via our distribution network. Our distribution network spans 32,000 kilometers. If let's say people ask me, I would just say from Kuala Lumpur, New York to Kuala Lumpur. So that is 32,000 kilometers. So when you have 32,000 kilometers of pipe, definitely you have different type of pipes, different age of pipe. And I think the most important thing to note here is that we have around 5,000 asbestos cement of pipe. So we are doing a pipe replacement program to actually replace this kind of pipe. And in 2025, we are estimating to actually replace 300 kilometers of pipe. And in 2034, we want to actually increase it to 400 kilometers of pipes. Second thing is that when we talk about NRW, we know that Selangor, Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya is a big area. We need to put that area in zone. We call it district metering zone. So in Selangor right now, we have 2,200 DMZ. In each DMZ, you have a meter in, meter out, and you will also know exactly what is the consumption in that particular zone. So knowing consumption is not enough, because we also need to know what is the pressure in that particular zone. For example, if let's say the pressure is very high, then the pipe is prone to leak. So that's why we have to manage the pressure. So when we have all this zone, we know exactly how much it consumes, how much is our billing, and we can actually pinpoint where is the leakage.
So those of us living in the Klang Valley are no strangers to cuts in water supply, with multiple disruptions experienced in recent years for various reasons. What measures are being put in place to address water scarcity issues in these areas and across the state?
When we talk about a water disruption, I think let's go back to where we get our water. We get our water definitely from dams and also from rivers. And we work closely with government agencies to ensure that the source of raw water is intact. Basically, it means that the source of raw water is within the parameters prescribed by our Ministry of Health. But of course, Selangor, KL, Putrajaya, we contributed almost 40.1% of the nation's GDP. So we must coexist with development. That is the reason why we cannot stop the development, but how we actually maneuver. So one of the things that the Selangor state government is doing is actually to put up a raw water assurance scheme, whereby if, let's say, for example, there are contamination in that river, we can actually use the water from that pond. So that thing can last for 14 days. Okay, so that is one. We tackle the source issue. But you know that every year our water consumption increase 3 to 4%. So the next thing is actually we must have enough capacity. in that respect, we are building currently Rasa water treatment plant. That Rasa water treatment plant, we envisage to have 1,400 million litre per day. And then we also look out to expansion in our Lebuhan Dagang for 200 MLD. And also we are doing a study now to increase a capacity for our Langat 2 water treatment plant for another 760 MLD. All in all, from now till 2032, we should actually see an increase of capacity from 6,300 MLD to almost 8,300 MLD. So this is where we are trying to do our best to ensure that our customers are protected from any disruptions.
Now, there's been a mushrooming of data centers in Selangor. So what is IA Selangor stand on this matter? Since data centers, as we know, consume large quantities of water, and really, what are the sustainability measures put in place?
We support incoming of the data center because we think that it is good for the country, and once our state government and our federal government approve, then as an agency, we need to provide the water. In IA Selangor, our design capacity of all our water treatment plant is 6,300 million litre per day, and the current consumption is 5,300 million litre per day. So basically, we have around additional 1 million litre per day that has not been used, and that actually translates to 18% reserve margin. All these data centers, when they want to come into Selangor, they have to go through Invest Selangor. We are communicating with Invest Selangor in the sense that we need to know where is this data center to be located and how much is the water consumption. Based on our discussion with Invest Selangor, we know that if, let's say, the data centers are coming to Selangor, they would require 240 MLD. So just now I said we have a buffer of 1,000. Coming in is 240. Definitely, IA Selangor can actually supply the water. The next thing that we need to discuss is actually, I have the water, but I need to know where is this data center being located. So I need to have a connectivity to that place. So that's why we are addressing that in some of our program to ensure that our major reservoir are connected across Selangor. Then, of course, now I have water, they can use the water. But what do we do for sustainability? Okay, and this is very interesting. We have talked to this data center. Some of them are okay to use our water, potable water. Some of them want to use reclaimed water. Some of them want to use reuse water. So we are very open. We told them, if you want to use a reclaimed water from sewerage, we have our subsidiary with IWK, which is Central Water Reclamation, where we actually own 60%. If there is an effluent discharge from IWK, you want to use, you can use. If there are, for example, a reused water from factories nearby that you can use, you can use. So for effluent discharge, you can use CWR. For the factory from IETS, you can use a company called Air Lestari, which currently has been actually established by our parent company, MPI Selangor. So we are very open. You want to use potable water, you can to me. You want to use effluent discharge from IWK, you can use from effluent discharge. From factory, you can use Air Lestari. So whatever it is, we are there to help you. And the thing is, next 2 months, what we are going to do is that if, for example, you use a water from me or from CWR or from Air Lestari, it will be in one bill.
Adam, this is a question that I think about all the time, but I never really have a clear answer to. Can we drink water directly from the tap in Selangor, like in some developed countries?
Every water that comes out from our water treatment plant is safe to drink. The only thing is that because the water travel 32,000 kilometers of pipes, and then the water also actually sits in our water reservoir. So perhaps because it's old pipes, perhaps reservoir is old, perhaps there is a sedimentation. But other than that, if from the water treatment plant, you can drink. This is actually being supported by our record with MOH. Our quality parameters is around 99.93%. And to address the issue that I mentioned just now, we have a repetitive cleaning of our reservoir, cleaning of our pipes. So if, let's say, for example, for something, let's say, for example, we manage to do everything one go, definitely you can drink from the tap.
So Malaysians on average use as much as 228 litres of water per day, which is higher than the government target of 160 litres per capita per day. What can be done so that we treat water like a precious resource?
The 160 LCD is actually from the United Nations. In Selangor, it's even higher. It's actually 238. So what we are doing is that we want to actually put this back to our customers. Because, for example, like me, I'm the CEO of Selangor, for example. I ask them, you always tell me that I need to use water wisely. But I do not have any way to actually measure it. So what we are doing right now is actually, if you have your Selangor Apps 2.0, you receive your bill, then you can actually put how many people actually stay in that household. You can see how much is your LCD. For example, for me, even though I am the CEO of Selangor, my LCD is actually more than 230 LCD. So I told them, 1 month I'm okay. 2 months I'm okay. 3 months perhaps I'm still okay. But in the 4th month, I'm not okay because my apps will blink. So what happened then? Then I have to actually see whether I use water too much or they are leaking in my household. That is where in our next update in our apps, we will put the plumber list. We will not dictate which plumber you want to actually hire. We will just put a list. Then you can just call and then they can repair. I think you should see a decline in your LCD. This is how we want to actually encourage people to actually reduce their consumption. On top of that, our apps also, if let's say you walk in Kuala Lumpur, for example, suddenly you see a leakage, pipe leakage. You can actually use your apps to take the picture and that picture will be sent directly to our command center and we will actually send people to solve it.
Adam, thanks so much for speaking with us. That was Adam Saffian Ghazali, CEO of Selangor. Stay tuned, BFM 89.9.
You have been listening to a podcast from BFM 89.9, the business station. For more stories of the same kind, download the BFM app.